Chair recognizes Representative Evans to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I did not expect to be here so soon. I did not want to be here so soon. When I got elected, and last year I said, I'm going to go to the well only if I have something to say, and I was hoping that it would be a while before I felt like I had something that I had to say. But I rise in opposition to this bill. The purpose of HOPE, when it was first established, was to make college more of a possibility for students and unto themselves as members in running this state to make our state a better, more welcoming place that our kids want to come back to after they go to college. We don't need to do that with this bill. Focusing on trying to get more kids to go to college is a great goal, and it's a needed goal. Only 3% of children will climb to an income bracket higher than their parents in their lifetime. Only 3%. This means that the family that you're born into is going to determine your future more than anything else, which is maybe an obvious point. But the way to change that 3% factor is to get more of our students into college. And that's what the HOPE Scholarship was meant to do. I'll tell you a story, a personal story. Those of you who don't know me, I grew up in Ringgold, Georgia, which is a small town up on the Tennessee line. Got some friends in here from there. And my high school, Ringgold High School, graduated about 30% of my graduating class went to college. Several years later, I was fortunate to go to the University of Georgia on a HOPE Scholarship. Several years later, I was babysitting for a family in Buckhead, and they happened to leave a brochure from a private Buckhead college on the table, and I was flipping through it. And I noticed on the front cover, it had a listing of all the students from the prior year's graduating class and the colleges they had gone to. 100% of that private Buckhead college, the students from that school went on to college. 30% from my high school went to college. Now, I know that maybe we say a lot that not everybody's meant to go to college, and maybe that's true. There are plenty of things that don't require a college degree, and we should all be given that choice. But we should not determine who is meant to go to college from birth. And that's what happens. HOPE was intended to change that. You cannot dream what you don't know. My parents didn't go to college. My grandparents didn't go to college. How can you dream about college if you don't really think of that as a possibility for yourself? HOPE is a wonderful advertisement for college for our students. Those who don't sit around the table talking about college, those who aren't looking forward to college visit weekends with their parents, they know about the possibility to go to college because of the HOPE Scholarship. And we deserve to keep that dream alive for them. Now, I've been giving a little bit of anecdotal evidence about myself, but it's not just me. Those families with incomes less than $36,000, 5% of the children from those families will go to college. $36,000 to $63,000 a year, 15% of those kids will go to college. Over 95%, if your family earns income over $95,000, 75%, you have a 75% chance of going to college. We can't ignore these numbers. HOPE was intended to change these numbers, and we shouldn't change the purpose of HOPE today. I've heard the argument that a 10% cut isn't that much. Well, first of all, that's not guaranteed. This year we're saying 90%. Next year it may be 80. Eventually it may be 50. We don't know. We can't promise that today. But I would challenge you that 10% is a lot. It depends on which of those income brackets you fall into, whether that's a lot of money to you. I'm going to take GSU as an example. Yearly tuition at GSU is $6,070. 10% of that is $607. So a $607 cut off your tuition plus fees, which we're also not going to pay for anymore, $1,228, a total of $1,835 that you are going to come out of pocket a year just for tuition and fees. That does not include how you're going to get yourself there, where you're going to live, how you're going to eat, or Lord forbid something happened to you health-wise. That's $35 a week. $35 a week may not sound like that much to those of us in here, but I have a story, another story, and it's always stuck with me. When I was growing up, we didn't have much money at all. $35 was a lot of money. Well, I remember very vividly when I was in middle school visiting a family friend who was more affluent than we were. And the mother was running to the store to get some groceries or something, and she turned to her husband and said, "Honey, I need some money. Can you give me some money? I got to go pick up some things for dinner." and he, without thinking, pulled $40 out of his wallet and gave it to her. For me, as a 12-year-old, I think I was about 12 years old at the time, that was such an amazing thing to me. I thought, how could he just so easily pull $40 cash out of his wallet and give it to his wife to run to the store just to pick up some stuff? I remember that now when I go to the ATM or when I'm looking at menu prices. $40 is a lot. $35 is a lot when you don't have a lot. Why would we make it harder on our students? And I'm not suggesting that we have to have a complete cutoff in income. I'm just suggesting that we deserve it to our students to consider a sliding scale. People will be impacted differently by this 10% cut, and we should recognize that in our legislation. We have a duty to the little girls growing up like me in Ringgold, Georgia. It's not just inner city kids that are poor, it's rural kids. And we deserve to give them a chance to be treated differently. We deserve to make up for the fact that they're going to be treated differently. We're sending bad message with this. I want to touch on the Zell Miller Scholarship. 3.7 is a high GPA. That is a high enough standard, I would submit. I don't agree with this, cutting these kids out, but if we're going to cut them out, let's recognize that 3.7 is an achievement. Why should we force them to also have a 1200 SAT score? Again, I'll tell you a personal example with myself. I graduated with a 3.8 in high school. I had barely 1,000 on my SAT. Hard work can get you a higher GPA. Hard work will not always get you to a higher SAT score. These tests are biased, not racially, but economically. I could not make up for the fact that I didn't have 18 years at a dinner table with educated parents sharing vocabulary, talking about reading, giving me the tools I would need to score high on an SAT score. That did not make me not the best and brightest in this state. And it is an insult to tell a kid in high school who receives a 3.7 that we think they're inflated because they couldn't get a 1200 on the SAT. They deserve better from us. I've given a lot of examples here today that are personal examples, but it's not just me. There are kids like this in your districts, and they deserve for us to slow down, really study this, and keep hope alive for all of them. Thank you. I yield the well.